It's so good to see you and so good to have you here. How are you?
I am doing well. I'm so excited to be here and really excited about our conversation.
Yes, me too. I'm going to introduce Yvonne. I just want to welcome everybody back to Small Biz Diaries, the podcast where we dive deep into real life challenges, triumphs, and unfiltered stories of entrepreneurship that more people should be talking about. And today we're diving into the nitty gritty of mindset shifts, that crucial leap from being an employee to an entrepreneur. Who better to guide us than Yvonne, who is just recently going through that transition, and she is just an introverted public speaker, which is just an enigma on its own, and I love it. Turned business owner who's all about public speaking con cultura, which I love. And Yvonne's just not only helping others find their voice, but she's living proof of the power of embracing your unique story and unique journey from going from like a 9 to 5 to building a business around your passion. And it's today's episode, I just know, is going to be packed with such valuable lessons, and hearing Yvonne's journey and sharing her mindset shifts that were key into where she is now. Yvonne hosts wonderful monthly public speaking workshops, and she also has her own podcast called Chats with Yvonne, where she talks to amazing small business owners who also get to practice their public speaking skills. So I'm super honored and grateful to have you here, Yvonne.
No, thank you so much. What a wonderful introduction. Again, I'm thrilled to be having this conversation. And I think I left my corporate, my 9 to 5 back in December. And so it's been a couple months of doing public speaking full time. It's always been my little baby and side hustle. So I'm really excited about the conversation we're about to have.
In December, I mean, this year's been going by pretty fast for some reason, I think. But where to start us off, like at the beginning, how were you feeling? What was going through your mind when you were making that decision? Maybe even what led to that decision to help give context.
My transition out of a 9 to 5 and going into full time into my business happened way before December. And I had had these thoughts of, am I really good at what I do because I like it? Or do I like it? Do I think I like it because I'm just really good at what I do and I've been doing it for so long? So I think I was in this moment of deep reflection. And all at the same time, the requests for public speaking work had been going up, and I found myself having to reject or decline some of those things because I had a prior commitment to my 9 to 5. And so it really just created a bunch of moments of reflection for me that if I hold true to what I say and what my framework for perfecting the art of public speaking is reflect, connect, share. And so I had to go through that process in my own personal and professional life and say, okay, what do I really want to be doing? And in the point of my life where I am right now, this is probably the best time to say, hey, let me leave my job and give myself the time and the space to really pursue my craft and see where it goes and see where it takes me. I I get asked this all the time around, did you just decide to leave? Right? I just didn't, right? Again, it took a couple months of me thinking about it and saying, I am financially stable enough to do this. I am a first gen daughter. When I first got into the tech industry, it was a huge shift for me and my family financially, right? I all of a sudden was like, oh, yeah, I could buy that. I can get you this for Christmas, whatever it is, right? And so I don't ever make any move without thinking about that financial stability first. And I know life is all about taking risks too, but I was like, I need to feel just kind of okay in that department before taking this leap. And I did, thanks to my job in the tech industry for almost 8 years. And so that transition was very almost natural for me. It didn't feel very hard. I didn't feel that it was a huge deal, but I didn't feel that it was a bad decision. It all felt like good. I just felt good vibes about it. I'd actually told my previous employer that I was having thoughts of leaving, I think sometime in November. And they were like, well, why don't you just stay with us through December? Right? Like, you might as well. We're in the tech industry. Like, December's coming, the holidays are coming up. Like, we don't really do much in the month of December. Like, just stay through the end. And that really gave me some time to really say, I made the decision, it's happening, and gave me a couple of months of transition into being full time.
First of all, thanks for sharing. What's important to highlight here too is that it's going to be different for everybody, because during these conversations, often it comes up that, do people have a plan when they are thinking of leaving their job, or do they start doing a side hustle and then they end up, being financially stable enough to leave? And it's all really unique to you. There really is no rule book or roadmap. It's more or less, like you said, I think introspection definitely helps, making sure you're thinking about the different things that will impact the decision. But at the end of the day, it's really just up to you and how you prefer to make a plan, whether it is leaving in 3 months or 6 months, something that works for you. I think Gabby, one of our other episodes, we talked about this too, because I think there's so much stigma around leaving your 9 to 5 and just so much conversation around it. But it's really just a matter of figuring out like what might work for you. And it sounds like at the time for you, even in November when you mentioned it to your boss, you already knew that, like, okay, this is the momentum, or these are the mindset shifts I'm going to start to have to make in order for me to actually leave. But what would you say was the hardest one, when you're transitioning from, okay, January 1st is my last day. Obviously not sure if that was exactly your last day, but like from this day forward, this won't be my everyday. So now what? Like what did that feel like for you?
Yeah, it was December 31st.
Okay,
So
that's close.
basically,
Yeah.
yeah. And I think the biggest shift for me, right? I'm first gen grad, first gen pretty much everything. And so I'm used to doing things on my own for the first time with very little guidance, but I did feel supported, right? Not in the sense of folks know what to tell me in my upcoming journey, but they at least are like, Yvonne has always pretty much had her shit together, right? Like it's fine. Like she'll be fine. The transition that happened for me was being in tech and working for so long, right? I started working since I was 15. Like I had my first job at 15 and I never stopped working then. In between jobs, I've had maybe a week of a break, right? And so I was battling the being burnt out from having a job and then all of a sudden having all of this freedom with my time and how I managed it. And that was very difficult for me because during a 9 to 5, you kind of have no choice but to show up and do the work and blah, blah, blah. Being your own boss is kind of like, well, you can kind of just not do anything in the morning and maybe not even in the afternoon or all day. You can do it tomorrow. And I think I was having to balance this need and want and really the me deserving rest and being okay with going out on a mid afternoon walk or going to the beach or having lunch with a friend or my partner instead of being stuck to my computer because I could, right? And so it was and still is very hard for me to balance the two because for so long I haven't centered myself and my well-being that this feels like a very good perfect opportunity to do it because I can do it on my own time. And at the same time, it also requires me to show up even more in very different ways, right? Even more so than I did in my 9 to 5. So for me, that transition of managing my time and balancing my own well-being with, hey, you have to get this stuff done because this is now your only thing, that's been challenging for me.
Yeah, and I can imagine it's another layer of introspection, right? Because now you're in a completely different environment. You don't have the structure that you might have had when you were in your 9 to 5. So you almost have to like relearn or unlearn certain things that you learned from being like an employee and having 6 month reviews or 3 month review sessions, whatever. And then now being like, oh, well, no one's going to give me a personal review of how I'm doing. Now I have to figure out, am I, auditing my business every 3 months, or what structures am I going to put into place for myself, while also making your own boundaries or creating your own boundaries and values that really help you be the best business owner or be the best entrepreneur that you want to bring forward. It's a interesting journey to have to unpack, because there's so many things you don't even realize you were doing on autopilot from
Mhm.
being an employee to then trying to figure out how to implement it for your business.
Yeah, it's really hard. And you think about, oh, you can time block. Oh, you can do it. But like no one is making me stick to those things, right? It's just me. I get to hold myself accountable, which is a beautiful thing. And at the same time, there's years of unlearning to be on someone else's time and someone else's dime and someone else's everything, right? To be able to show up for yourself and your business in a way that's efficient, but then also in a way that also leaves room for you to still be, right? And I actually, funny enough, I eventually one day I want to have my own coffee shop where uh, folks can just come in and practice their public speaking. That's like my long-term vision, something that I want to do. I want to retire doing that.
Love it.
And I thought, what better time for me? Like because I wouldn't say struggling, but I'm battling this like I have time freedom and I can do my own thing, but like I should be doing this and should be doing that. I am still unlearning being on a structure and I also like doing multiple things at once. It's almost like because my business is my full-time thing now, it consumes my entire brain capacity. And sometimes I'm like, I need something else to do. Not because I want to work more, but because it makes it so that my business and my public speaking is still fun, is still something fresh, and I can take a creative break from it. And I actually thought about, well, maybe I should be a barista. I should pick up a part-time job as a barista, not because I necessarily need the hours or need the money, but one, I want to learn how to make like bomb latte art and bomb coffee.
Yeah.
And at the same time, it'll give me a little bit of that structure that I'm craving to hopefully eventually just weed me off of like, oh, okay, you're good on your own now, right? Like, okay, I have to work at a coffee shop from 6 to 12 or something, and then I get to come home and work on my stuff. So I've actually also been thinking about that. And, it's something that you think about as a business owner. Does that follow? Is that what I'm supposed to do? Like, aren't I supposed to just focus on this? And it is it an indicator of something going wrong within the business if I want to go and have that little side gig, right? Like now a job would be my side gig. And so I've been going through those things and I've actually been like actively applying and everyone's like, no, you don't have experience in it. So maybe one day I'll let y'all know if I ever do get the barista job.
I think it makes sense, like, especially with you heard it here first, future coffee shop that is also a amazing space for community and public speaking that it helps you get some experience and like truly
Right.
know if you want to do that. I'm sure in so many different ways. I mean, other people have those same thoughts, right? Because I think one of the things you said stood out was just finding ways that you're still keeping what you love about public speaking in that passion and in that creativity. Because oftentimes, I think, especially as first gen entrepreneurs, you get so caught up in like, well, I need to do, I need to, wear all these hats and try to do all these things, which sometimes puts you on autopilot or like starts making you lose touch with why you started or like what it is you
Mhm.
love about your business. So I think that's such good advice for anybody is just finding ways where you're still reigniting your passion every day. And sometimes that could mean different things, whether it's a coffee shop side gig or, working at a brewery for a little bit on like the side, or maybe even just like taking up pickleball or running and having that be a way to like shift your focus on in a different way that still helps you become and be the best business owner and Esperanza or Yvonne to bring forward like into your business. I think there's so much to take from that because it,
Yeah.
it really does help, especially when inevitably things come up that you're like struggling with your business. If you still have that passion and that creativity and that inspiration, it's going to make you want to push through a little bit more.
Yeah, and thank you. And I think that it's also in knowing that and accepting that about myself that I need to have little side gigs that I'm doing every once in a while. It's helped me also hone in on the types of things that I want to be offering and being more intentional with those things. I've learned a lot about myself as a public speaking consultant and saying, where do I want to spend more of my time with my clients and the services that I offer, but even in the creation and creative process of whether that be content creation or some of my newest brand, Latina Presente, bringing those ideas to life. And so I think that acknowledging who I am as a business owner, and it may not be the same as everybody else. Everybody else is like, hey, I'm doing this 100% full time. It's all I do. I can accept that for me, it's important to have something else to be doing so that I can continue to show up in my most creative form and intentional form for my public speaking offerings.
That's one of the biggest reasons why I think some of these conversations are important, because when you're seeing what you're seeing on social media or even just through mutual friends of someone that's a business owner, you don't often see the fact that there's so many other layers to it that are going on behind the scenes to try to get you to where you want to go. It just is unique to everybody, but everybody has their own like way or form of coping or trying to figure out what is next for them, because it is overwhelming. It really is. The multiple hats part is just something that I think people need to reflect and figure out how to develop that for themselves and like what works best for me.
Yeah, it's very overwhelming. So do what you got to do.
Yeah, exactly. So okay, fast forward December to now, almost July. How are you feeling? With where your business has gone in that short period of time, or where you want it to go, and how your mindset has shifted now?
Yeah, since leaving my job, I've just had so much more time. Time
Mhm.
to think, time to do, time to create and recreate all of my offerings. And so I think that these last 6 months, really, I love summer. I think summer is when I like rebirth and come back. I don't think I do that during January, really, or the first couple months of the year. But I've been using these last 6 months to really say and ask myself, what is my vision for my consulting with Chats with Yvonne and the Latina Presente events, virtual events, and things that I want to do. And so, in between now and then, I've really been able to be specific about my offerings. I've been able to book more workshops and things because I have more time to send the emails, right? Whereas before, when this was my quote side hustle, it was okay, whatever comes in through my inbox just organically, that's what I'll be doing. Now I have a lot more time to intentionally apply for the conferences. And that's actually one of the things that I'm attempting to shift even more into, because I realized that I was focusing a lot on public speaking education and training. And that is still one of my offerings, both one on one and as group and organizations would like me to host workshops for. But I also am now able to have dedicated time to go and research the types of public speaking engagements that I want to be doing and continue my own career as a public speaker as well. And I think that's been one of the larger shifts in me having the time to really process the fact that I'm doing this on my own, but also doing it and saying, okay, awesome. Well, now not only can I focus on helping others be incredible public speakers and show up and provide them the education and knowledge and the confidence, for lack of a better term, I don't provide it to you. You already have that, but to help you bring it out more. Not only can I do that, but I now can also focus on my own public speaking journey. And through that, continue to showcase how introverts are incredible public speakers and create the spaces for all of us to be able to practice our public speaking. So it's been really fun. And I'm really excited for what we have upcoming. And what I have upcoming. But every day I try to do something small towards anything, small or big. There are some days where I wake up and I'm like, yeah, today is just not the day that it's going to happen. And I have been more and more okay with that. But I think getting really specific about my services and knowing what I want for myself as a speaker has been transformational in these last 6 months.
Yeah, strategic planning is something that people often just don't even think about, because typically someone else is doing that for them in a corporate job, or there's someone else's vision that you're trying to like fit yourself into. So now with your own business, it's like really cool and refreshing and exciting to think about where you want to take it and what possibilities come to mind and what things you enjoy and what things you um, don't enjoy as much and want to focus less on. So that's super exciting that you're in that stage, because I think I'm personally excited to see where it comes to life. And I feel like a lot of people, when they go through that stage, I mean, it evolves, right? Like it will continuously evolve, but taking that time to really strategic plan and realize, like, okay, where is it that I want to take my business is really important, and really helpful. But I do have a question. What do you think people struggle with the most when it comes to public speaking?
I think the easy answer would be for me to say the nerves, right?
Mm,
Everybody deals with the nerves. To whatever capacity it is, your lived experience really informs the way that you experience public speaking. So I always tell people, reflect on the very first time that you remember public speaking. Who was around? What was the context? What did you talk about? Because it's likely that the way that you experience public speaking then has left some residue into how you experience public speaking today, right? So we dissect that together, and it's really important to form a foundation on that. But beyond that, and I think second to that, I that is one of the easier answers to provide. But the second one is really, once people get to the stage or they're like, okay, great, I have the speaking opportunity, it's organizing our thoughts and deciding what stories to actually share, what information is relevant, how much is too little. And I think that a lot of the reason that that happens is because we're not in a constant state of reflection all the time, right? Which makes sense. But I like to tell folks, always start with the lesson learned, right? If someone gives you a theme for an event or for a talk or whatever it is, the other day I had someone say something like, they just said, tell me about your journey, which is like, that's like when people tell you, tell me about yourself. Like, what
yeah.
part of myself do you want me to tell you? Right. Like, so you have to set the tone for that. And you have to think about your audience, who's in there, and what impact do you want to have. And I usually like to say, hey, tell me about, what is your journey? What lessons, let's break it down. What lessons have you learned in your journey? Don't think too much about it. Just write all of those things down. Now, take a look at those and then start removing the ones that you don't want to talk about or that you feel strongly about the lessons learned. Now make a list of who's in the audience and what they might care about. Now think about lesson learned in relation to my audience. They'll probably care a little bit more about this one. And then you can start to say, okay, lesson learned. This is the theme of my speech, what I'm going to talk about, what I want my audience to learn as well. And what are 3 points that I want to make about that lesson? And we always just say 3 points, but you can have one, two, three, just depending on the time that you have. And then from there, it's like, I can't just tell people, I have to show them, right? I can't just tell people, use the resources when you're in college. I have to show them how maybe the lack of me using them caused a certain thing for me. Or I have to show them how me using the resources that I had in college really propelled me to something else. And how do you do that? Through a story, right? And so then you're able to think about, this specific story goes with this. So it creates this space. Really, that process allows you to really see everything that you have up in your brain and make choices about what can be shared. And those choices don't mean that you chose the best one. It just means that for that time being, that's what you're going to focus on, because we can't say it all at once. You will have another opportunity. And something that I like to say is that with any speech and public speaking, yes, you're there to maybe share some lessons learned, but no one's going to learn it the first time. Your role is almost to embed curiosity and plant the seed of, I have a question about that. I'm curious about that, so that they can continue in their own process. And by they, I mean the audience, or they can come up to you and say, hey, let's talk about it some more. And then you can share all the other stuff that you had on your list.
So cool. I've never heard it spoken and dissected like that. And I think it takes a lot of pressure off of it too, right? Because you always think, well, I have to make sure that the audience leads with this, and if they don't, then I've failed, or if I don't, then I didn't really get my point across the way I wanted to. But yeah, it does take a lot of pressure off of it when knowing you want to really still instill that curiosity about something and curate those lessons that, or like nurture those lessons that have helped. So many gems. I When you mentioned think back to your last public speaking, I was like, oh my gosh, like I need to think about this um, myself. I appreciate you sharing all those nuggets.
Yeah, of course.
Do you think So, where you're at now with your own public speaking journey, is there something you're currently working on or struggling with to help Yvonne become a better public speaker?
As far as the skill set of it, I think it's just constant practice, right? We all have to practice it constantly. Something that I am, even as a business owner, I think that I'm struggling with or have a challenge with is promoting myself a lot more and a lot more assertively, and not in this like I am this, right? Because it's not in my nature to be incredibly bold and loud, but more so in giving myself credit for the things that I have done and applying to the conferences and applying to speak at this event or whatever it is, and not holding myself back from doing so because I am dealing with self doubt, right? Because I know that I'm a great public speaker. And I think that sometimes as a business owner and as a public speaker, I dilute some of my accomplishments within the space, but no one is going to know about them if you don't tell them about it. No one's going to know that you're amazing if you don't tell them about them. No one's going to know that you have these amazing services or that you're incredibly creative when it comes to your specific niche and industry if you don't tell them about it. So it's interesting because I'm a public speaker, right? And so my job is to speak and to tell you stories. But when it comes to myself, unless I'm on that stage, it's very difficult for me to create that transition from stage Yvonne and storyteller to business owner, market yourself. Right. So it's something that I'm still navigating through and I'm trying to get better at it.
Yeah, same thing. Like when I'm analyzing, let's say, my own social media account versus someone else's account. Like it really is harder to put yourself into those shoes. It is a little bit of a mindset shift, or you have to almost like try to look outwardly as much as possible, even though it's you that you're trying to shift or help.
Yeah,
um,
because we're so it's so easy for me to see how someone else is incredible and all the things that I want to highlight about them as a speaker and like owning what they've talked about and the public speaking engagements they've had. It's so easy for me to do that. And I joyfully do that for other people. And then when it comes to myself, it's almost like I put a brake on it. I'm like, I don't want to deal with it. Let me go work with someone else and, do this or it's definitely a mind game.
Yeah. One thing that I got really good advice for that was Nicole, one of our other Small Biz Diaries writers, and I'll shout out her episode, but she talks about what would your younger self say and do because they're so proud of you. What would they like
Mm,
want you to be proud of, or how would they want you to celebrate? And so almost like taking yourself back and putting your inner child in the driver's seat, so that way you're like, okay, like let me be a little bit more celebratory, or let me be a little bit more kind, because I'm really excited about this.
that's
So
beautiful.
yeah, no, I really love that. So just a small little tidbit.
I love
Uh,
that. I'm gonna use that.
yeah, yeah, it's good a visualization too, right? It's fun. I'm so like in awe of everything that you've mentioned, and just I truly resonate with a lot of it because of the fact that no matter where you are in your entrepreneurial journey, the mindset shifts will continue to happen as you grow personally and within your business. There will always be different obstacles to navigate, and the reflection component it's a big part of it. Considering where you're at now and where you want to be is another part of it. So remembering all of those things and remembering that your growth and how far you've come, is a big part too. I think is just so beautiful to really encapsulate the fact that we've talked about all those different ebbs and flows within entrepreneurship, and you're still starting off and you're already doing incredible. So I'm sure I'm
Thank
sure
you.
there's amazing things ahead. I just want to thank you again. And I'm wondering if there's any other advice or just words of wisdom or an experience that you'd want to share that would help leave off the mindset journey, or just where your journey as an entrepreneur is, before we head off.
Yeah, I say this to all of the folks that I work with when it comes to public speaking. We've been so conditioned to look externally for how we should show up, especially as public speakers. I'll approach it from that lens. And we look to others, whether it be, let me do research on the best public speakers that are out there. We watch YouTubes, we study them because we want to be more like them as speakers. And so my biggest piece of advice is to start internally and understand your own foundation as a speaker first, so that when you do go out there and do your research, the best practices that you adopt, because there are best practices in public speaking, you're approaching them from a lens of, okay, I know who I am and I can use this, and it's not going to dilute who I authentically am. It's actually going to better my ability to communicate and create impact. So start with yourself, and then you can go and do all of the research and I want to be like that. I want to be like that. Or I like the way they move their body when they're on stage and their hands, right? So start with you first. That feels a lot better, and you have a better foundation for the rest of your public speaking journey.
Yeah, no, that's beautiful. I almost like visualized your foundation as like roots of a tree. And then as you start learning things, it's almost like you're adding little branches here and there that will help you, you know, like flourish into the beautiful tree
I
that
love
you
that.
come to be. Yeah. So no, I couldn't agree more. I'm full of so much gratitude for you taking the time and sharing your journey, and just opening up about what it is you're working on, struggling with, all of those things. It really helps peel back the layers. And I really hope this was also helpful for you. And I can't wait for everybody to hear this and connect with Yvonne. I'll make sure to leave everything, her username handles and what Latina Presente, everything that she's working on so that people can connect with you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. This was like almost like a journal entry for me. So I'm going to come back and listen to this often.